All right. So again, kia ora everyone, and welcome to Ada Lovelace or Happy Ada Lovelace Day. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope all are keeping safe and hanging in there till we get out of the situation, and we will, because we always do. My name is Samar Al Reyes. I am a co-chair of Techwomen with my wonderful colleague Eva Sherwood. Besides that, I am a client executive at Microsoft, and I'm very happy to be here. I will just start with a couple of minutes welcome and just a reminder of what Techwomen is, in case you don't know what it is. So Techwomen, which is an alliance of Tech, is basically, it's just part of Tech, which we are all very passionate and focused group of people and organizations who are really passionate and would like to move New Zealand and Aotearoa forward in tech and in digital and ICT careers. We're trying to address a major challenge in the industry, which is the shortage of women, clearly. And that's impacting the success and growth of New Zealand and organizations. As part of the things that we do, and I will share the website and our LinkedIn page and group directly in the chat after this, we do a lot of initiatives and projects, and some of them maybe you heard of. So one of our largest initiatives is basically Shadowtech, which we focus on young women in school and teachers to shadow people in the tech industry to understand what it is and what are the options that they have in the market. Because yes, programming is a major part of it. However, there are other options as well that shape the look of the industry. So we want people to know their options. We also focus on mid-career and executives in the tech industry and women in the tech industry with mentoring circles and other initiatives of networking and other career, for example, discussions and focused ones on specific technical ones like security and soft skills or power skills for the sake of today, and mental health and other things of skilling and understanding what's needed for the industry. Again, thank you all for joining the celebration of an amazing woman and the one who mostly shaped what programming as we know it today by putting not only the logic and the mathematics behind programming, but to link it with algorithms from being a poetic science, as they call it, to see more of just solving math in algorithms, but to add social part for the algorithms. Happy Ada Byron, or as known as Ada Lovelace, and welcome, and I hope you enjoy the session today. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Summer. Yes, Ada Lovelace, quite an amazing woman who opened the doors at a time when women weren't opening doors to mathematics and technology and logical thinking, at a time when softer skills were very much in their area. So today we're going to be working in a panel, as you can tell from our panelists. We have three amazing speakers who I will introduce per chat as we go around the table, the virtual table, obviously. So what I'm going to do is start off just by explaining a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today and why power skills, soft skills are so amazing. And we ask a little bit of admin that you ask the questions in the group chat when we come to the Q&A session. That's just so that we don't lose any good feedback that you've got. Once we've finished and we enter into that, that's your time to engage. You can talk to us during that chat period, and we'll also give you some information to email us or contact us. So we'll provide all of that, as Summer said. So let us start our conversation. In the presentation today, we're going to be talking about soft skills. What are they? Or power skills, as they are now being referred to. I've been pointed in the direction of a person called Josh Burson, who is very much into power skills. And what he talks about is power skills. What are they in the now? soft skills have been in the past generic and for women culturally and society, but the skills of the future are not just technical. The technical abilities, can you code, can you do programming, what languages do you know, those are now considered technical skills. If you move to the next page, please, Kerry, that would be awesome. Fantastic. These skills can often be brought or honed in-house. You employ the people and you can either create your own technical environment with these skills, as we do in our company, and other companies that don't focus on IT can, of course, buy in those skills. But whatever those skills are, the power skills, the behavioral skills, are also known as human skills, are the way of leadership for the future. And as Josh says, these are not soft skills or, you know, anything to be taken lightly. They're highly complex, take years to learn, lots of experience of your own experience, and walk through your career path, making mistakes as we all do, learning from them, and knowing, you know, how you operate, how you communicate. We've all been through those phases where we don't know how to communicate with a colleague or to express ourselves. These are the power skills of the future, particularly for leaders. So are women and men inherently different? Well, clearly, biologically, we're quite different, which led to us having different roles. You know, the men were originally the hunters and the providers, and the women the nurturers. And that's remained quite culturally and socially how we are depicted and what roles we play. But of course, that's changing now, with a lot of companies becoming more focused on the family support and the wider family support as men and women work within industries, and particularly in the IT industry. And something we need to consider is how that works in the future of work. And we've done a webinar on that, actually. In this particular one, gender specification has seen that women provide the more of the softer skills, these power skills, but men in work can be equally as empathetic, able to listen, able to understand, etc., and provide all that support. And what we're looking for in the future of work are these skills, these new skills relied for today's business in all of our leadership areas. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for all of us that are working within companies to do leadership? So the world ahead, companies like Facebook, Amazon, etc., Boeing, they're struggling, not so much struggling with the technology and the technical skills, but they're struggling with strategy, ethics, culture. And we're going to hear a little bit about that from our wonderful panelists today. The future of work. You may have worked in a Ford factory for 50 years, 50 years ago, and got your watch and got your jacket and got your label as you went through. And that deemed you as how to be a better leader because you were the most experienced. But now the careers have a lattice rather than a ladder. And hierarchies, as we know, are getting flatter, particularly in IT. There's a much more of a need to deal with change and have a growth mindset and a future mindset. Zoom calls, for example, whole new thing. COVID brought that along, whole new thing. Cats and dogs and kids and weather and mowing and all sorts of things happening in the background that we're not used to controlling. Where's our little office and our little 4x4 and our white office and our nice little windows that we were used to having our silent times. So COVID has really changed that, and we need to move with it. So one of the acronyms I've recently learned to share with you is something called VUCA, V-U-C-A. Now there should be a slide on this, hopefully, if the presentation is working. Here we go. VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Life is VUCA. Work is VUCA. COVID is totally VUCA. So this is our buzzword, VUCA. It's so VUCA. So what's volatile? Well, the pace of change, the pace of technology, the pace of learning. What is complex? Pretty much everything. You know, if you don't have a mind that is built for understanding, you know, compassion and empathy as your go-to, you're very technical. How do you merge the two? And as a very much a nurturing power skill, soft skill person, how do you balance that with communicating with technical people or understanding technical journeys or technical information, technical discussions? That's why the two must come together for the best result. If you relate to complex problems to have an answer, as our leaders have in a time of COVID, they can only relate to what they know. How do they then relate to something that is completely new? So ambiguous, that's ambiguity as well. How do people lead us through something that they have no knowledge of? We're learning as we go. So what skill sets are we going to need? And what are our leaders' mindsets for growth development, you know, growth mindset? One of the phrases I've heard is a great growth mindset word is, oh, I can't do that, is I can't do that yet. So adding the yet to the growth mindset, great for kids as well. Not so much for pets, but definitely for kids. So experience doesn't really help you when problems get complex. So what does that mean for us in the IT industry where everything is complex? Next slide, please. So this takes us to our power skills, everybody. Power skills. It means time management, prioritization, teamwork, communicating, empathy, listening, growth mindset. All of these are what businesses not only are looking for, but they need not just in leadership, but in teams. And everybody brings some of that. Everybody brings a piece of this to our future development for business. There are opportunities for people now to have a mindset that is willing to adapt and grow. And those are skills that are now being looked at. Power skills that people who are very fixed or technology specific in recruitment. It's important to understand these people's mindset and ability to be agile. For our people out there that are looking to develop and evolve, how is your CV looking? Does it have information on how you can adapt? How is your career development plan looking? Have you noticed things, noticed what you love to learn about and podcasts that are in your field of interest, your own development, your own growth mindset, attending this webinar, for example, because you're interested? That shows growth mindset. We're all here together taking time out to go, hey, I want to know a little bit more about this because it's relevant to now and it's relevant to our roles. I know that we are at Sofian are on a really quick, fast track where we have to have growth mindset and development plans, etc., that we have to be part of. So take a moment and think, what can I do to develop myself and my growth mindset? And it doesn't have to be massive. We're not running a marathon here. Just, you know, try and get to the letterbox for a start, you know, or at least a lamppost at the end of the street. So small sort of micro chunks of growth mindset. You're still moving in the right direction. So the last slide I'm going to leave you with is a reflection of what our power skills. So if we could move to the next slide. Here we go. Here's a snapshot. And hopefully I'll be happy to share this as well afterwards. It'll be in the recording that we'll send out. So look at these lovely words. Optimism, I like that. Kindness, forgiveness, empathy, these are great words. Integrity. So this will be part of what we can send to you in the recording, and you can pause it and reflect. These are all great words for me. I'm totally in this zone. This is, if anybody that knows me, this is totally my zone area. I love this. It doesn't have lots and lots of talking, sadly. I can't see that on a box here. But with that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Angela, who is going to be telling us a bit about what her journey has been. We're very lucky to have her. GM of VMware, is that correct, Angela?
Correct, yeah.
Wonderful. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. Amanda and I actually, we've had a couple of passionate conversations about diversity in the workplace, most recently over a glass of wine at a friend's barbecue earlier this year. But when she asked me if I could speak today, I was rather enthusiastic, and I say that because I've worked in the IT industry here in Wellington for almost 30 years. And built up a significant amount of skills and expertise along the way. As you can probably appreciate, 30 years is a rather a long time, and I'm probably showing my age. But I'd like to say that my most important and valued skills are actually my soft skills, but I hadn't actually heard them being referred to as power skills. I just always knew that they were powerful to me. So I'm loving the fact that we're actually bringing attention and discussing the benefit of these types of skills and the value that they actually have in the workplace. Influencing and coaching people to work together is probably a skill that I place a lot of importance on. And I say that because there is so much value that actually comes from people actively, collectively working together in a positive way. I have been in enterprise sales for the majority of my career, and that's where I've probably cultivated these types of skills. As selling is about influencing and delivering outcomes. So it relies on people trusting each other, communicating and collaborating well, and obviously being accountable as a part of that process. So these skills really came into play when I was asked 2.5 years ago to be the country manager for VMware here in New Zealand. When I initially started, I looked to prioritise sort of our core objectives in three key areas. First of all was number one, grow the business with an enterprise customer focus. Number two, scaling our partner ecosystem in order to support that growth. And then ensure that we actually had a really positive culture within our team. And when I kind of reviewed it and, the various levels that, and executable actions that sort of broke out from each of those, I actually flipped number three to number one, because it's actually really important that you have a good team culture as the foundation when you're asking for any expansion or growth. So we've got the slide up here now. I wanted to kind of take you through some of the key areas that we focused on to ensure that we had a team that actually worked well together across the business. And it all starts with trust. That's kind of your foundational pillar. Teamwork begins with trust, but the team, as a part of this, actually needed to trust me. So I needed to be vulnerable enough to share my challenges or limitations, because showing vulnerability and admitting mistakes or weaknesses is actually a way to build trust. It shows that if you're vulnerable and you're still okay afterwards, then others will actually accept you for who you are and the diversity that you bring. If you believe by example by saying, I might be struggling with X, I need support for Y, this will actually encourage others to actually follow suit and help build that trust, as we're creating a safe place for people to actually operate within. Without trust, people actually won't voice their opinions for fear of creating conflict, but healthy conflict is actually constructive. So allowing for open and healthy conflict is actually a next pillar. I like to ensure all team members have their say. In fact, I encourage it. Although conflict can actually come with a little bit of loaded energy at times, it's okay, because it's how we deal with that conflict that actually builds strength within a team. So that's about respect there as well, and managing that conflict in a healthy way. Everyone has something to contribute in any organisation. So it's actually my job as a leader to expect that and go find it if needed. And that's also our opportunity to encourage and embrace diversity of thought, values or ways of operating. The next is about gaining commitment. When everybody is heard and their views are respected, transparent decisions are actually more easily reached. And that's when you get commitment from people. Individuals are much more likely to buy into a decision-making process when they've had their say. But if there's no debate and their opinions aren't included in their decision-making process, they're actually less likely to commit deep down and actually work in a constructive manner. It's important that we also communicate clearly around expectations once decisions are reached, as a lack of clarity or buy-in prevents team members from actually making decisions that they'll stick to. And then we need our individuals to be accountable. The best and most high-performing teams out there are actually where the individuals within that team hold one another to account. It's interesting, as often the need for us to avoid personal discomfort actually prevents team members from holding each other to account. So start having those uncomfortable conversations early and consistently. We need to confront difficult issues, but when they're built on a foundation of trust, commitment, and clarity, holding each other accountable will actually help everyone and the overall function of the team. And finally, we always need attention to results. It's natural for people to actually put their own needs first, but when they're busy pursuing their own objectives, the team doesn't always get what it needs to succeed. It's important to set clear collective goals and highlight the importance of results. We need to, talk about results, we need to measure them, we need to acknowledge, and we need to reward team members that are actually working towards them. So that's the overarching framework that helped me build a functional collective team. And you might say, well, that's all well and good, but what does it really mean? Well, when there is trust, healthy discussion and accountability, the team will be strong, motivated and committed to achieving group or business results. So if I go back to the start, I had 3 core objectives for the New Zealand business. Number 1 was growth. Number 2 was develop and extend our partner ecosystem. And number 3 was improve the culture of our team. 2.5 years down the track, we have achieved significant growth and delivered some of the largest deals we've actually seen in the New Zealand business. This has all been delivered by an outstanding team working together, geared up to deliver those results. I heavily relied on my power skills, commonly known previously as soft skills, to help develop a functional team and look to enhance the culture as a result. The beautiful thing is those individuals within my New Zealand team now actually own that culture as a result of their own teamwork. It's theirs to nurture, protect, and most importantly, they're actually really proud of it, which is lovely to see. Nowhere in there did I discuss certifications, university degrees, or academic qualifications. Success was achieved by leveraging our power skills and interpersonal skills. People are actually our biggest asset. We all have these skills, and when leveraged together, can actually be extremely powerful within any organisation or sector. So thanks for allowing me to share that with you today. Hopefully you've managed to take something away, and I think I'm back to you, Amanda.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. I was nodding my head to a lot of that. That was great. And the slides really, really helpful. And some of the chats have been great as well. People saying, this is awesome. It ties in with what we're doing at the moment. So very on point. And thank you so much. That was great. Look forward to listening to that again in the recording. Now, if you've got any questions for Angela, pop them in the Q&A, or we'll or wait until our last section. So there's a little Q&A chat down at the bottom of my screen I can see. So we are now going to go to Kiran. I'm not going to wrap you up in a title, Kiran, because you are a woman of many talents, and I would like you to explain that to the audience.
Thank you, Amanda. And I agree that I really enjoyed listening to what Angela shared with us. What I am going to share soon is similar to that in a different aspect. So, kia ora, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kiran Adonda. A really brief intro about myself. I started writing my intro and it turned out like really big one, because I started writing about family and whatnot, because that is my priority. But a brief intro for this context. I'm a mom to 2 very lovely girls. They're 7 and 11. I'm a very passionate delivery professional leader, but my passion is focused on the people. So people are at the center of my work. And I'm currently working as a survey and service delivery manager at Kainga. However, I just want to briefly run through my career and what I've done in the last 15, 20 years. And I'll use my personal journey and examples of what are the things that helped me achieve, help me enjoy the roles that I did, and hopefully leave you a few things that probably you can use. So with regards to my career, I started as a teacher, then lecturer, banking specialist, IT comms, contact center, lender, believe me, testing, project, program, business, delivery management. And in general, for all of these roles, a leader. I am confident enough to say that if I ever thought of walking back into these same roles with the same organizations, they would welcome me back. And I was thinking about the reasons for this. And I strongly believe this is to do with these power skills that we touched on. Again, I haven't ever thought about them as power skills. I kind of looked at it, this worked for me. So I'll share 3 key pillars that these power skills kind of underpin those pillars. So I'll share those 3 things with you today of what worked for me and why I enjoyed all the roles that I did so far. And hopefully, the people around me enjoyed as well. So that's why I can confidently say I can walk back into those roles. So the first one, so that you can see the communication with integrity and simplicity. So this is underpinned by skills such as caring, listening, nurturing. To start with, as a teacher, I'm going to use that example. I taught year 5 to year 13 students. These are the students that this is a tuition in the evening. It's in addition to your school, college. And they come here because either they are just not interested in learning because the parents send there so they can learn these extra things. They're too playful, or they want to learn, advance their learning. So I had like really wide diversity of students that I taught, which everyone's objectives are quite different. So within a few months, initially it started, quite a hard work. Not everyone's on the same page. Of course, because they're coming there for either the parents sent them or they're just not keen to sit down and go to school. So the key thing that it worked for me is actually building relationships with them. So actually getting to know them genuinely, see what actually their interests are, what their passion is, what their motivation is, and everyone has different learning abilities and interests. So once I get to know that, for the rest of the year, my teaching was really easy. So it took me a good few months, I would say, to establish the relationships. I'm using this example because when I look back in all my roles, this is exactly what I've done. So when I go into a team and either work as a team member or a leader or a manager, my first thing would be to genuinely, and this is where I say with integrity, that I take time to understand my team members and their interests, their skills, and especially the uniqueness they bring to the team. So I believe that everyone brings something to the table. And if I can connect to that, then we can form a really strong team using each other's skills. So by doing this, where I'm going with this is if you're truly interested in what you're doing, whether you're a developer, support person, DBA, manager, it doesn't really matter. Your genuine integrity, when you start showing that genuine interest, it will start to reflect. Trust me, you can't hide it. It'll start to show up. And your passion towards your stakeholder that you're dealing with, whatever your work is, that will show up. I believe that this is one of the really basic foundation pillar that helped me to all my success in my roles. It is definitely hard work to start with. I'm not saying it's all easy. And especially if you depends on you're walking into an existing team or a new team that you're building, it doesn't come that easily. But that few months of hard work that or whatever the timeline will definitely pay off later. In this, you might be wondering, where's the communication? Communication here is getting to know your team, your audience, context, the mode of communication that works for them. So if you understand all of this, communication comes naturally, and you'll do it in a way that you are yourself. So you're not pretending, trying to be, looking at videos online or you can learn things, but again, you'll be you because you're actually genuinely getting to know your team. So the second pillar that I'm sharing with you is begin with end in mind. This one can be quite heavy, but I'm not trying to talk about begin with really like the real end of our life. If you look at whatever role that you're in whatever the role that you are intending to go into in technology, if you look at that way and actually see what do you want your team members and your organization to be when you leave the role, what do you want them to be remembering you as? What would you write? What would they write on the farewell card? It sounds simple, but trust me, this is the one that gets me through the difficult or tricky situations or healthy conflicts that Angela referred earlier. Because what happens here is that if you define what your core values are, this is all looking after yourself, by the way. It's empathy, nurturing, caring yourself. So you're actually writing down some key things that are really important for you. And no matter what the situation at work, do not compromise on these values. Hold on to those. Prioritize your work, your time, your communication around these core values. This will show up again in your day-to-day work, your career decisions that you make, your contribution towards whatever you choose. As you're giving that integrity to your own values. So don't give up on those. And when you really strongly believe on these things and you've identified these are my values, you wouldn't hesitate to communicate about them because that just comes naturally to you. And again, that adds to your communication skills. This is not just great for you, because if you're actually living and breathing the values that you believe in, it is actually good for the people around you, because you're actually there 100%. And same thing with the organizations, they'll really appreciate. And last but not least, the third pillar is, let's try to show the picture. So preserve the core, but stimulate progress. So do preserve what you are, who you are. Once you've identified that, and hold on to that, do not change that up. It will probably evolve naturally as you grow your strengths and skills, but keep an eye on stimulating progress. Hold on to the values, but be curious. Always look to learn from everyone, from every opportunity that you're part of, a formal conversation, a meeting, a tea room chat. I actually personally keep on reminding myself to do this. And when I try to do this, just try, give it like maybe a few hours to that. And trust me, any conversation you have in the tea room, or while you're walking to your toilet in the office, or on calls, just pay full attention. You're bound to learn something from there. And try this for a day and see how it goes. As I'm sure you're all aware that learning keeps your mind engaged and body active. We all know that. It helps to gain new experiences, trains your brain to handle a wide range of challenges. It opens it up, keeps your neural pathways active. All these factors at the end combine to keep you healthy and, more importantly, happy. If you're healthy and happy, only then anything else can happen. So just recapping the 3 pillars that I use that worked for me: communication with integrity and simplicity, begin with end in mind, preserve the core, but stimulate progress. These have definitely helped me where I am here today. Just one last leaving note: the technology sector needs these skills more than any other sector, is what I believe. We do have plenty of clever team members. There's graduates coming up. I know we have a skills shortage at the moment, but still, trust me, compared to the technical skills shortage, power skills shortage is even wider, is what I believe. So, and I feel like, again, this is my belief, that this comes naturally to women. So if you work on this, keep on refining this, you will be able to pick whatever role you would like to do in technology, or just stay in the same role, but enjoy whatever you choose to do. This will work out, and people around you will be glad to have you on board. So hope you give a try to either 3 pillars, or at least one of the pillars that I shared with you today. That's me handing over back to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Kiran. I did love the old school slides of the bits of paper. Always good to go back to when there are technology issues. That's my perspective, and I'm a full supporter of that. The other thing that I thought was really great how you wrapped up, so everyone, just to reiterate, was when you're thinking about your career in the corporate or IT sector, obviously, as we are, draw on those skills, as we've all said, Kiran and Angela and Yvonne's going to be mentioning as well. Draw on those skills. Remember that you have those power skills, and if you want to develop those power skills, that's totally achievable as well. We're touching into them, and as women, we do have a lot of them naturally. We probably aren't aware. Even multitasking is a power skill, I've got to tell you, and that's not promoted enough. I think that might be our next webinar. How to multitask. So I'm going to pass to an old friend of mine, a lovely lady who I've known for a long time, and I've also had several wines and lots of laughs with. And she is now a program manager, and I've known her as a project and program manager, and I would work with her again in an instant. Yvonne, over to you.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. Morning, everyone. Kia ora, ni sambulang naka. I'm Yvonne Daymond. As Amanda said, I work in a delivery space of IT. I've only ever worked in IT, which is interesting, aside from having children and having a husband and managing all that stuff. So I'm a program director. I guess I'm lucky I'm the last speaker, so I could take less time, because what Angela and Kiran talked about was so amazing. I was nodding along the way and making notes. I think from an IT perspective, I'm fairly similar to Angela. I've been in IT for 30 years, and in a project setting, starting out as a business analyst with no skills and no qualifications. it was an interesting space to be in, because you could learn, and it wasn't so much about what you didn't know. It happened to be a SME of a particular application for a government agency that I was working for at the time. So I was pretty lucky to get that. I was even luckier to be surrounded by people, and a couple of women in particular, who helped grow my capability. And so all of the things that we're talking about now, these women taught me that that's what I already had as a young mum, and so that was really, it helped me really temper all the other stuff that came with working in IT, and working in a time in the country where perhaps it wasn't diverse on multiple levels, right? So I was always the odd person out, and being a very young teenage mum working in IT, there was all sorts of interesting conversations that you would have to navigate, and so that required some social intelligence of how not to actually get fired, for how do you turn down something that you're not drunk enough for. And so the learning, the early years of working in IT really taught me some good skills, social intelligence. Being a young mum, I guess, wanting to work in an industry where I had to do lots of research to learn about it. And I was lucky enough to work with a couple of female mentors, one from the States and a lovely woman, Iris Pahu, who really taught me a lot in terms of what we turn up with, we're enough. You know, at a time when that wasn't really the language of New Zealand for women. And they were just so lovely about it. We didn't have to be militant, right? So we could just learn and grow and learn and grow. And so that was really good. And then fast forward all of those learnings and raising the children and stuff. What I've learned and what I've done in my workplace is I never wanted anyone to feel how I felt when I was in IT. When I started out, I wanted people to learn how to grow in it, because it's a fantastic industry, and particularly in the delivery space that I inhabit and live and breathe it and love, which is why I still work in it. I wanted people to understand what they bring to the table. So it was sharing that collaborative vision of what we're doing today in terms of an IT setting, what perhaps the strategy is of what we're doing, and tactically how that plays out for the organisation, what the wins are there individually for each person in the team, my colleagues, people that I work with. My whole intent was, if we grow the capability of each other, we're going to actually turn out to be a really good collective team, you know, because I never had that. So I was always really keen to grow that. And I remember having quite a few conversations with Amanda when we worked together at Spark about how do we do that in quite a male-centric setting with a lens that's not necessarily the same lens as ours. It wasn't wrong. It's just we have different way of thinking about things, right? And how do we introduce that thinking, that mindset, that approach without it being dramatic? And so from there, that's basically what I've done, and utilizing all of the soft skills and the power skills. It's about thinking about growing people and helping them see how they should see themselves, you know, men and women. And I've done this for both. I've helped them with their CVs. I've helped them realize that maybe this is not the job for them. And this is people who worked in projects that they perhaps are just in the wrong place, wrong organisation, or the wrong role, and how best they can go out. Because my belief all the time is, if we grow this capability, you know, our sector, then we get to grow the strength of that, and we get to influence what that next wave of graduates or interns look like, so that I can show them being a good coach, and that I've got a compelling vision, I guess, because I'm really passionate and invested in technology as an enabler for business investment, not a driver of where we're going as a country. I'm really interested in what our teenagers and our children are influenced by, because I have quite a lot of them. And I'm down to my last one, so God willing that goes well. He's 16, it's touch and go still. And I've been really lucky in terms of I've had quite a diverse background, And to be quite honest with you, being the only, which I never thought was a thing, being the only Pacific Islander female in a room at a table where you're negotiating a contract with a banking organisation or a government agency or whatever, that requires significant spend for them in terms of a delivery investment. That takes some tenacity. It takes an ability to negotiate with, have healthy, robust engagement with them around it. It requires you to be inclusive. It requires you to show citizenship of the organisation that pays you, but equally of their organisation and what they're bringing out to the market, and you showing your knowledge and your ability to make those linkages, right? So all of that stuff, we collectively, we can bring that to the table, but potentially we don't really speak that way. So it's a matter of kind of showing a different way to engage with each other about how we talk about, how we do these things. And sometimes when you see people talking, it's hard to get a feel for how you would do that. And so I guess my intent this morning was just to show you that this is really, I just walk and talk this. When Amanda asked me to do this, I was like, oh, seriously, I'll be so dumb at that, because I don't really think about it. I've had a few months to think about it because I've been putting it off for a while. But then I just thought about my children, my nieces, and the coaching I've just literally done to get one of my nieces to grow some inner confidence. I was trying to think of a politically correct way to say this. Inner confidence to actually throw her head in the ring for a job that she didn't feel like she could get, and she got it, and she got it remotely, which is amazing, So for me, it's all about that stuff. It's those quick wins that, well, not quick wins because it's a journey, right? But it's those little things where someone else is having an amazing time. You think, oh, that's I feel really pleased about that. And when I'm having a really bad day at work, I kind of think about those things and go, I'm pretty wrapped actually. If it all fell over tomorrow, I'm pretty wrapped. There's quite a few people in the market here and internationally who have come from, cleaners or coordinators or doing law and wanting to do something else, who are doing exactly that, and not necessarily in IT, because we are collectively helping each other grow. And we're doing that with our power skills, with all of the skills that Angela and Kiran and Amanda and Mara and everyone have talked about in the past. All the things that you on this as an audience, you have it, you probably just didn't know how to tap into it and what that looks like in a practical sense. Anyway, that's all I have.
Unmuting. Thank you, Yvonne. And obviously I was laughing through some of that because I've known you a long time, and I know the army that you're raising alongside a very very high level career. And I just want to pick up on a few things from what you've said as a wrap up as well from our other speakers. Something that and the chat's really interesting, trying to do both and flick to the chat. I would urge that everyone to have a little read at the chat after we do our Q&A session before it all shuts down. The diversity, being the only Pacific woman in a room, being the only woman in a room, being a blonde, beautiful woman in a room, being the only Indian woman in a room, being the only woman, sitting around 9 other guys, and just knowing you're sitting there going, right, I need to be really clear about what I'm talking about, because by the time I enter this room, they already have a perception built on this. And now, obviously, this is changing, and there is a lot of hope. And that we are all here, right? The members are here, the listeners are here, we're here. There will be guys and girls, men and women, in all kinds of leadership roles, graduate roles, all sorts of people listening. And it's really important. Really interesting what you said is our imposter syndrome, and am I good enough? Something I do think we will talk about in a webinar, because that is really typical of women or people just entering something. So, the whole fake it till you make it thing, but the imposter syndrome, and she owned it, which is amazing. So I think now, gosh, so much information. I've really loved this. We're going to go into the Q&A. So everyone that's on here, can you please start putting in your questions into the into the Q&A chat. So first up we have here. Okay, so Angela, I'm going to throw this in your direction. Ladies on the panel, turn yourself on and off mute as you feel. We have 12 minutes to answer lots of questions. The first one is from a lady called Yvonne. I hope I pronounced that, and I hope she's still on the line. How do you select candidates for a job with softer management qualities? How do you go about that, ladies?
From my perspective, I would be focusing your questions very much to uncover those soft management qualities, right? So narrow your questions in to identify those areas, you know, sort of how they deal within, you know, with conflict, how, you know, sort of how with, you know, sort of looking for questions about how they deal with and build resilience, you know, or it can cope with situations. Just narrow your questions down. That would be my feedback on that one.
The ladies, anything to add?
You know, I'm the same. It's about making it's about having an idea of how you would like an answer to be framed up for you. So I'm usually, being a program person, I'm a bit of a control freak about this. So I make it so that it is exactly that, making sure that I've got a question that's open enough to engender some conversation around how that candidate would deal with an area of conflict, and then what that would look like in terms of whether it was resolved or not resolved. So you get a sense of their resilience and their ability to navigate that, in my mind, without any drama. And then what that would look like as an outcome, like, because sometimes conflict's really healthy and you understand what you're heading towards because you want an outcome, then you bring your team along on a journey. When you're in an interview situation, it's quite difficult to get that because you've got a half an hour or, you know, you've got an hour, and you want to make sure that you have a rolling conversation with it, which is just my approach. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone else.
And that's interesting because that picked up on what Angela said as well around the healthy conflict, or, you know, to hold people accountable. So it's great that we've had, you know, that backed up. Thank you very much. Charlie asks, I think this is for Angela, because it says, how did you go about changing the culture? But all three of you have experience on this. So we'll start with Angela because, you know, she came into VMware with this in mind. So Angela, how did you go about this?
Yeah, so changing culture is an interesting one, because nobody owns culture. The team own culture. They're accountable for that culture. So there's lots of different areas, and it takes a while. But I think the first one is drawing attention to appropriate behaviour in the workplace, which is, you know, mostly framed around, you know, good respect, collaboration, communication. Because when people communicate, they actually collaborate. So it's, you know, it's that old saying, over communicate sometimes to get your message across. It's little things like, you know, I have three sayings. You know, from a customer focus, you have your external customers, you have your business partners, and you have your internal team members, because it's really important that we actually show respect, the same respect that we'd give externally to our own internal team as well. So when you get little things like people come in and say, you know, oh, blah, blah, Evan's not doing his job, he's being lazy, you know, that doesn't help anybody, because Evan's actually coming to work not trying to be lazy. Typically 90% of us turn up to actually do a good job. So, you know, it's Evan's probably got a different focus or a different priority or something that he's doing which he hasn't been able to achieve your objective as yet. So again, never assume, loop back around, communicate, you know, and you actually start to, so you're not making decisions based on assumptions, you're actually making decisions based on fact. So all of this goes and leads into actually a good culture, because people feel respected, they feel like they can contribute, and then you start to see a positive influence coming across your team. So hopefully that helps answer that.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Value and trust is enormous for creating culture.
Yeah.
Kiran and Yvonne, anything to add to that? That's very well put, Angela. Really well.
From a team level, I've actually seen a manager that I worked for coming from India, where work is just the top priority and people work like machines. I think culture is changing now, but when I came here after a number of years, actually seen a manager who, goes by living by example. So we talked about work-life balance, but this manager of mine, she's GM at that time. She'll just, if 3 o'clock meetings finish, she'll walk out, she'll get out to get the weather and do some exercise and then go back home and work from home. The second thing is, like, when there is deadlines, when there is really important something that we have to deliver, she'll jump in at not saying at whatever time, but whatever she need to do, she'll jump in. But there is nothing like, oh my God, a GM is leaving at 3 o'clock, whereas all the team is sitting here. Same thing, I think that it does come from setting that clarity from leadership and management and actually doing it yourself. So the trust, the actions that you want your team to do, you'll need to do it so they can then actually follow. That's another thing to add to what Angela said.
Absolutely. And I think most of us that have worked within IT or any other sector, but in this case, obviously, we're mostly in IT that are on this call, we see a lot of the culture setting by leadership, and in some cases that can be not a great experience, particularly when they've been there forever and probably need to be going, fishing a lot more, maybe, and taking their antiquated views with them. So I can see Yvonne tackling as well. She's going through this too. It's very common in Wellington and government, for example, that sort of hierarchy, or law firms apparently very hierarchical. IT not so much now, some, but from my experience, things are changing. We have another question here, which I will open up to you. I have it from Caroline. Caroline Herbert. She has asked for Angela specifically, but we'll keep it open as well. What does it look like in practice for your team to hold each other accountable, as we discussed, to maintain that culture? So how do you do that?
Again, from my perspective, it's just being respectful in the way that if you've set expectations up front, then it's easy to say, and you get agreement, then you can go and go, you agreed to this, why aren't we here? So it's just, I think it's just respect and communication, because often, again, it's that, please don't assume, don't, sort of walk away from a situation, not asking a direct question and making assumptions based on what you think may have taken place, because often that's actually not the reality. Something else has happened, but you've decided, and, based on your assumptions. So again, it's just that communication. But, within my business, we've set up agile sort of stand-up meetings so that, and this is about, ensuring that we can progress activity and accelerate quickly and deliver our objectives and goals. But the team actually do these stand-ups on their own merits and actually, sort of go, okay, you're going to do this week, or when can we do that? And again, it's that communication, right? It's setting those expectations up front, and then people understand what's been asked for them. Therefore, they typically usually deliver to them, because again, people want to do a good job. Majority of us turn up to enjoy it and get feedback as well. Feedback's really important as a part of that process. When somebody does something, or somebody does something that contributes to the success, provide that feedback. Say that was awesome. The fact that you did it quickly enabled us to do this. So then they can say a chain of events, and then they're actually, next time they come around, they're much more likely to.
And everyone to feel empowered to do that as well. It doesn't just have to come down from the top. Everyone should feel that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time. We ran out of time. I have a feeling we could have all kept going for about another 20 minutes. We've got some awesome questions. We've had lots of stuff in the chat. Summer, I believe we should be able to continue to answer some of these questions. I think, even though we're going offline, we'll still be able to do that. I'll find out. I'm pretty sure we can from what we've done in the past. We've had lots of lovely chat. It looks like a possible idea for our next one might be imposter syndrome. So that was worth a little chat about, eh? So this has been fantastic. Again, thank you to everybody for taking time out to join us, to our wonderful panelists who embody our topic today. So thank you so much, and a pleasure to know you ladies as always. So as Summer has said, Please become, reach out to us to become part of Techwomen. And we have our LinkedIn page, we have our newsletter, all sorts of things for our members and people that are interested. So ladies, thank you very much.